Ciao a tutti, it's Arom and it has been a while. I've been busy, but I'm back. And yeah, I've been so busy that I won't be able to play in tournaments for at least a while, which I'm kind of sad about, but it is what it is. But because of that, there won't be anyone repping Constellars really, not really anyone that's good enough to top with them. So I'm here to fix that. Because the issue with me being the Constellar guy and also the YouTuber is that I am promoting Constellars, which is good and which is cool and all, but the issue is that Constellar is probably the second worst deck that you could give someone new to the format after Mythic Rulers, because it's a really simple deck to play mechanically, but it's really, really, really matchup knowledge dependent. You need to know the format, you need to know the matchups, you need to know what your opponent is doing, you need to know how to stop them precisely and effectively, because otherwise you just run out of resources. You can't close them in time before you do run out of resources, and then you lose. And if we look at statistics, or I've looked at all the decks, so I see so many Constellar lists that they are net decking my list. You can see by the ratios, but they're not topping. And why is that? Is it because the deck is bad? Maybe a little bit, but it's 90% because you need to know the format to play this deck. So this is kind of like a shortcut to that. I'm gonna try to teach you as much as I can about specifically playing Constellars in the format. So yeah, let's get into it. I will be talking about how to stop every deck. I will talk about siding patterns. Not every deck, but the relevant ones. And yeah, so let's start with Geargia. Why not? So the trick with Geargias is you need to play very, very fucking aggressively. Like the earlier you close the game, the better. Like if you have a play that goes minus on turn 3 and that could result in you winning, you do it. If you have a crazy play, you do it. You just do it. You just gotta go. Basically, there's if they get a few turns, they just win. You can't really do anything. The artifacts don't really do much. Playdays is strong, but they have infinite floating, so they don't really care. So what you want to be doing is you want to go first. That is very important, and you want to if they start with like assuming you go first and they start with like set one, set 3 or 4 back rows and pass, and you have like Pleiades and MSTs, you just want to bounce the back rows, at least one with Pleiades. Afterwards, it depends on how much damage you can make. If you and also how confident you are, because if you look at their normal summon with Pleiades, they can't really do anything, especially if they have no graveyard for soul charge. So you can kind of just go Pleiades, bounce 2 back rows, and then make another Pleiades and bounce their monster and attack with the 2 Pleiades. That's 5,000 damage. Make an M7. That's 5,200 damage. And then as soon as they normal summon, you just bounce the normal summon again with the second Pleiades, and they can't really do anything. Assuming they don't have Pleiades, they don't have Breakaway Grave. Because in that case, if they have Accelerator, that they can just screw you over. If they have a hand, they can just screw you over. So breakthrough skill is very relevant. If they see it, that's an issue. If you hit it off an MST or just use it, you can't get rid of it. If you do bounce it, then it's kind of. But yeah, in terms of setting patterns, the main thing is like this is my updated list. I'm playing a second side in the side deck, and that's really good for Geargas especially. So when you're going second, you want to set in Flying Sea, Lance, and Brick, and Solid Morning. I have sighting patterns written down. And you want to set out level chain for Constellar Omega, because Omega is very good into Geargias. Even going first, it's generally better than level chain. And what you want to be setting out is a Moral Attack, Sombre, and oh, forgot. Yeah. And the second Sombre. Yeah. So basically, what you want to be doing like this is like kind of locking them out to can't OTK them. With sight you can lock out Geargia gear, and then you can go for Volcasaurus if they not really Volcasaurus, more like yeah Volcasaurus and then Gaia Dragon Spears and OTK. And you also have Flying Sea, which I only play one of now because it's quite tricky, but it's very deadly if you can pull it off. Very strong if you pull it off. And then obviously it's very strong and warning. Even going first, Lance is strong into Geargias, and then warning, very good card. And then if you're going second, you definitely want to set in the second Exiton, play it like I do. To set out the Flying Sea, you want to set in the number. Sorry, the Soul Charge. Their Soul Charge because it kind of acts as an extender. If they let you summon two monsters and they go for like Black Horn or Warning, then you can switch back into usually Exiton. That's kind of the main thing. If they break through skill Exiton, then you can detach another material, and then this way you have two cards in graveyard, and you can Soul Charge into another Exiton. That's kind of the goal. Hopefully you are in a minus. Hopefully you didn't activate Tanky. Kind of depends on that. If you don't have, if they break your skill, then you probably don't have cards to exit on and like Omega. But yeah, like the main game plan when you're going second is exit on for the most part. The main game plan if you're going first is to just not let them play at all and kill them instantly. Just bounce their back rows, rid of their monsters at attack, and get rid of their first summon because they can't do much afterwards. That's so yeah. Versus let's see, Cat and Hat, sure. Versus Cat and Hat, you want to take things slow. This is like the one matchup where you just want to chill out. You don't want to extend. Don't really want to be making Pleiades. Pleiades not very strong in this matchup. You want to be making Tiras. If you're playing number 17, then sorry, number 12, so Crimson Ninja, then you definitely want to make that turn one instead of Pleiades. Otherwise, Tsukuyami would actually be better. But because they can get rid of Pleiades pretty easily with their own moral touch. But if in late game Pleiades is still very strong, especially versus Hat. Then versus Cat general artifact rules apply. Just play passively. Their Karkars. Be very wary of hands. In this deck not as much obviously because you have played this in the late game, but still. But as far as what you want to hit with Pleiades, besides blind back rows, you have the hands obviously. Then you also have them. If you see them ignition or their own back rows or double cycloning, then that's a pretty good sign that you should probably play this. But in general, you shouldn't be making play this if you have a feeling that they have something for it, something I mean an artifact, because that's a very big minus. I don't really want to get moral attacked on the Pleiades. In terms of siding though, I do tend to side out lance when you're going first. I just side in the breakthrough skills and side out the lances. Meanwhile, when I'm going second, I want to side out the lava chain to get the exit on in. I want Diddy Crows in. And, it's not like the exit on is too. No, actually, yeah, I definitely wanted the lava vault chain. Mistaken. I tend to set out the third instant fusion when I'm going second, and the third tanky. Or you can set out tanky, you can set out soul charge. Kind of depends. Tanky makes you weaker to hands. Versus Hat makes you vulnerable to those cyclone in the main phase too. But at the same time, you're just going slow, and soul charge when you're going slow is not that strong. So especially when you're going, so I generally set out the third soul charge, but try setting out the tanky instead of like Lance when you're going second, because you do have targets for Lance, you have bottomless, you have skill. That's really it, but that's still pretty relevant. Yeah, the matchup really depends quite a bit on breaker skill, who sees it. So especially if you're going up versus Cat, maining skill is good. But I don't main breaker skill because it's only really good into artifact trap breaks. I don't really want it to do anything else. So for me, it's just a side deck card in Constellars, and it's a tech card. I don't want to see tech cards. It's another reason why I don't want to. There's a lot of reasons why I don't play traps in Constellars. It reduces deck consistency. It makes the deck, slower. If you see a trap, it does make your end board stronger, but it doesn't get you to kill them faster. And one trap doesn't slow them down enough to make up for that. It's not. Traps don't equate to one turn lost. It's not go. It's hat. Decks go over traps if they want to. Usually, unless you're playing Mandolce. So yeah, then let's into Mermails. So versus Mermails, you want to play aggressively. especially because you want to turn off their soul charge. And this goes for any artifact deck really, cat and hat too, cat especially. In terms of stopping them, you don't really. It's not really about stopping them. It's mostly about achieving maximum damage. But obviously there's scythe for soul charge turns, so that's great. Uh, Play this can be good to stop them from going into their extra deck, but you want to use artifacts aggressively because don't really like very aggressively because you don't really get value of moral attack in versus Mermail really all that often. But what you do want to keep in mind what you do want to keep in mind though is that Mermails tend to side light imprisoning mirror. Not so much lately. I think. I see. No, that's pretty consistent. Still setting light imprisoning mirror. Very common. So yeah, you do definitely want to watch out for that. I used to cite the Diamond Wolf just mainly for that purpose. But you definitely want to keep your ignitions and double cyclones for that imprisoning mirror in games 2 and 3. If they have multiple back rows, then Sphere does not become such a high priority target when they could have light imprisoning mirror. And if they flip light imprisoning, you just lost like on the spot. Can't really do anything. In terms of siding patterns, when you're going first, one for Crow, I want dimensional sure, and I want warning. Could say you could argue first two crows, to avoid overriding, but really, you're sending out third double cyclone, which, to be honest, yeah, I think I would rather that for the light imprisoning mirror over the second crow if you're going. But you want to set out the soul charge, you want to set out the lance, definitely better than for the light. They have breakthrough skill, but yeah, one of the main things versus Mermails to do is make Dweller. Your main turn one end board versus Mermail is Dweller, which is why we don't set out Sombra even though it's a recovery card, which you don't really need a lot this matchup, but at the same time, really really want to make the Dweller. And so yeah, we're setting up the third card as well when I'm going first. Now when we're going second, kind of similar. Entirely sure why I want to set in a scythe. I'm just gonna keep over that. Yeah, yeah. When you're going second, you to side in second Exiton for you want to cut the level for second Exiton. Before going into soul charge boards, if they go into Abyss Gaius, Exiton is pretty good. Can out Leo is relevant. Yeah, yeah. The main thing is like you want to make Dweller protected with moral attacks and basically now going into spellbooks, it's your best matchup by a wide margin here. Go from here. As you can see, well, as you can't see because it's not really recorded much in tournament games. It doesn't happen often. Hasn't happened often thus far. But spellbooks really fucking easy matchup. You get you mix two engines spellbooks. But yeah, so basically you want to stop them from having spellcasters on the field. That's kind of the main thing. You don't want them to have blue boy. Stop them as soon as possible. Not as soon as possible. If they don't have any spellbooks in the graveyard, then they go for like blue boy into secrets. You let them go for secrets into master, and then you want to wait for the master so that if they have fate in hand, they don't get value. But if they have master ladies for damage, or not really waste master, but if they search it out, you go for moral attack secrets. If that's the only spell in graveyard, then they can't really do much. Do the first step is not really relevant. So yeah, I mean, it's the one, not the one you are afraid of. So hopefully they don't have anything to extend. Well, which means that they don't have priestess in life. In terms of side burners, I only really just set in the thermal attack because it's worthless here. And we set in the warning for the third, so you need a third soul charge. This stuff doesn't really go to graveyard much, and not really quickly. So you don't really need that third charge. What you might be noticing is that we set out the recovery cards quite often, and that's because they are really really good into traffics, and they are fine in game one, especially turn one with lava wall chain. They increase, but they aren't really that strong in other matchups. So if you want to prioritize like other matchups, you're just maybe then you're playing upstairs instead. But they are really strong. Hat they are still very versatile in patterns, so I think they are better than Upstart. Also, Upstart doesn't let you TK with the Shark Fort, might prevent some ways that you otherwise had. So yeah, keep in mind because you want to be closing out as soon as possible. Now, when you are going second, you want to set in the both the Sun Dex and the Omega. Arguably, you could be setting out the Lava chain when going first for Constellar Omega, but too important. But Omega is yeah. Going to Bujin. For Bujins, you really it's probably my favorite matchup in the entire format, and I know that's kind of weird because I'm Bujins. But hear me out. It's like it's a caveman Yu-Gi-Oh equivalent of modern. It's a battle for control. They can't set up their graveyard, you win. As soon as they set up your graveyard, you lost. There's really no way to get over them at that point. So you want to do everything in your power to prevent that. You have hair protects them from Pleiades. Hair protects them from Moral Attack. Turtle protects them from Pleiades. So sometimes you want to play these more unorthodox targets if they have turtle. If you really need to get rid of situations, or you could go for it twice. It's another matchup where going first is rather important, and they also tend to main a lot of artifacts, so that's really something that you have to watch out for. In terms of setting patterns, going first, you want the moral attack, you want the dimensional fissure, you really don't want scythe, and third sombra is not very necessary because you don't want to go, you don't want the game to go on for too long. You could also set in crows for maybe a crow for a soul charge, but crow is kind of like a crutch when going first. You want to it doesn't really address the main issue. However, when you are going second, the crow becomes like really fucking important. So we set out all the sombras. Don't really need them. We want the tarot sombras. Don't really need the fissure either. When you're going second, it's if they set up a protection, you really want to get rid of it in general. You could still play the fissure. If you want, you can side out soul charge, but that is still relevant. You really just it's a card that it has a but it's not very good turn two, and that is very important because turn two is absolutely crucial. Now, if you get through turn through, then Dimensional Fissure becomes great, but it's kind of a win more card when you're going second versus Bujin in that sense, in my opinion. So I don't really want it. But what I do want is these cards. You could also consider setting in the warning first Bujins, but it's kind of like Crow. It doesn't really solve the main issue. Unless they have Chalice, you should already be stopping them with by just playing aggressively with the artifacts. If you warning their Yamato and you have a more attack, then you don't. It's kind of a waste, you know. So you could be playing it. You could still be playing it as an extra of more attack, but if you can't get rid of their their Yamato on turn one with your engine, then you've already lost. You're already losing. You don't really, warning is like marginal at that point. There's a serious issue with your hand. You need warning when you're going for, or they open a very correct hand. But again, in those instances, warning is not really gonna help you much because you still want to go for the more attacks first. So, in that situation, Crow will still be better because you can go for the aggressive play first, and then if that fails, you go for the Crow on the target. So yeah. Then let's go for Mythics. Now, Mythics are a pretty tough matchup in my opinion. If there's some no, but yeah, the main thing is that like Blaster is just a fucking asshole, and also Tiddle too. They get overplayed these very easily, so it's kind of an issue. Dog Run is also very much an issue if they make it. So what you want to is what do you want to do? That's you really want to close them early because you really just cannot keep up with Blaster and Tidal. Just wreck you so much in the late game, so you want to go. Plus, if you just go, it turns off Soul Charge, so that's amazing. Um, you know, Something that really helps is Scythe, because if they go for a big play, you can side them, and then you go for Volcasaurus, and then you can close them. If they went for Soul Charge, they probably summon. If they summon like a White Stone, then and Ruler, then that's a lot of damage, and that's like 5k damage alone with the side plus under level 5. In terms of what you want to be setting, when you're going first, you want the scythe, you want the second crow, you want the dimensional fissure, you want to crows, you want the dimensional fissure. Scythe again to kind of close them off with Volcasaurus, and crow and dimensional really want to stop the rulers. In terms of what you're setting at, obviously the moral attack for artifacts for the most part. I feel like this deck is very much fine with 4 artifacts. The third double cyclone, I would also want to warning close charge. Skill drain is a very important target, but it's also one target. So looking at my setting patterns, I've noticed a bit of an error. Probably keeping the third double cyclone maybe. It can be dead, so you might want to the forbidden lance instead. For it stops Phoenix Wind Blast, stops some stuff. Or instead, you could set in the third DD Crow if you want to. But at that point, you might break on too much non-engine. But you did also set out the lances and the sombers, so the deck isn't too worried about breaking right now. Now, when you're going second, you definitely want the second moral attack over the second scythe. You want to break their board if they made one, and you definitely want the second Exiton. But besides that, it's really about the DD Crows and the Maxis. Warning and Dimensional Fissure not as good here, and Call of the Haunted is definitely something that you can side out. Instead, I would rather have back the lances. Between the third DD Crow and the third lance, in the second lance, I will probably pick the third DD Crow. But you do still risk breaking with this much side stuff. Keep that in mind. Maybe you do keep the dimensional fissure. It's risky. Maybe you do keep the sun warning. Might be it. Maybe you do keep the Call of the Haunted. It's kind of interesting because you don't want too many non-engine cards. You don't want to set too much because then you end up breaking. But at the same time, Maxi does kind of break you when you're going second. So it's probably fine, especially since it's only 2 maxis, not 3. 3 becomes breaky. Another reason why I just play 2 maxis. Also I play the flying C, so 2 is really all I need. So yeah, and let's go for Infernities. I will go for Infernities and then Sylvans, and then we'll call it a night. I don't really have enough experience in the Gravekeeper and Constellar mirror match to tell you too well what to hit and what not to hit. But in terms of what to hit with this, it's really just about protecting the git. So if they summon up a blaster, then you kind of have to get rid of it. If they didn't go for soul charge, at least I mean. But yeah, now versus Infernities, when you're going first, you just kind of win. Artifacts very good. Plead is extremely good. If they summon out a Grepher or an Armageddon Knight, you can just play this and bounce them, and now they have a hand. At least unless they really play around it, but kind of depends. Sometimes you might want to wait a little bit to bounce something if they don't have an extender. But if they do have an extender, you just want to bounce the Armageddon and Grepher or Monk as soon as possible. You just want to bounce their normal summons. Especially with the Grepher and Monk, especially before they resolve, before they activate. So in terms of what to side, some scythe is just like amazing, but it's you really are going for broke. When you're going first, you definitely want the Maxis, the Flying C. If you break with Maxi, it's good. Flying C is great. You definitely want the second sight over the moral attack. Warning is also great. In terms of what you want to be setting out, Sombre, the consistency, the recovery cards are not very strong here because you just want to close the game out very very early, or they just exit on you. So this is kind of going first. Going second, you want the lances definitely. So I'm kind of going blind here because the, the side patterns are not looking that great, to be honest. Um, you do want the crows, but you need to time them well, and I still struggle with that, frankly. But you definitely don't really want these cards. Want the second more attack over the scythe. You want to set in the megas and exitons here. The second exiton. Um, and what's left. Oh yeah, warning. I don't really need warning. Um, Probably citing the third lance for Infernity break, but often they go for it for the back rows on it. So not really. Two is fine. So yeah, that's what I would side. Now, in terms of going second game plan, it's in general when you're going second, you really want to go for Exiton. That's kind of your main win condition. But you do have to keep in mind that they have Infernity Barrier. That's quite important. So if you can snipe it first, that's great. Otherwise, just make a second Exiton. It's kind of it's kind of your main game plan going second. Going second if they went full combo. If they didn't, then you're fine. You're Gucci. Yeah. Next up, we have Sylvans, which definitely don't want them to combo because if they make Stardust, artifacts are dead. That's pretty bad. If they make Valgrand, then that's a pain in the fucking ass. So you definitely want to set up the lances and sombras, and you want when you're going first, you want dimensional fissure, you want breakthrough skills and warning. Breakthrough skills because if they do make an end board, then it's pretty good to stop that. If they don't, breakthrough skill on lone fire, pretty good. Breakthrough skill in general isn't into solvents, in my opinion. In terms of what you want to be hitting, on Sylvania, very very strong card. Not really with moral attack though. But sometimes it might be helpful. It might be a play. Lone fair, big target. Definitely want to get rid of it as soon as possible. In general, they're normal summon. Princess Sprout, kind of interesting. But one big thing that you want to keep in mind when you're going in games 2 and 3 is that it's one of those decks that's really, really likely to Flying Sea, and Flying Sea really wrecks this deck. So do keep that in mind. Now, when you're going second, you want the hand traps. So Max definitely, and Crow is good. It's not amazing. It's helpful. Definitely better than Sombra Lance, but this card's not that great. In this situation, you do want to make Exiton definitely second Exiton pretty strong. Um, Now, in terms of other decks, Madolche, really easy matchup. Just hit their continuous spells, hit their normal summons, and you win. If you go first, if you go second, Exiton, and you win. And I didn't make setting patterns for it in general. Going versus Gravekeepers, it's kind of annoying. You do have to play slow, but they have Necro Valley, which turns off Sombre and such. And if they have hands, that's a bit of an issue. They have trap tricks a bit less, so you can kind of just play beat down. 17 Pollux and Chaos beat over Murmulio. That's kind of why you just want to take it slow in the artifact matchup. So that also applies to Gatekeepers if they play yeah, the Murmulios over the hands. So yeah, that's it for me. I hope with this you can cop easier with Constellars. I don't know. It's kind of a new format here, and I'm really just chilling out. I was considering quitting the channel, but nah. I want to keep making videos, but I just want to make them for me. Really, I don't really care if I'm just rambling on very slowly. Setting up. Yeah, that's it. If you like, join the Discord, subscribe, ring the bell, all that good shit, and goodbye.